Welcome back to the deep dive. I was standing in the middle of my living room the other day, holding a cup of coffee, just staring. And I had this profound, slightly terrifying realization.
And you need more coffee.
No. Well, yes, always. But the realization was that my living room isn't just a room, it's a battlefield. It is an active conflict zone.
That seems intense. Are we
So.
talking about a clash of throw pillow patterns?
I wish. I am talking about a fundamental territorial war. On one side, you have the adult state. We want clean lines. We want textures that feel nice. We want a coffee table that doesn't look like it was made by a traffic cone company.
Right. The aesthetic aspiration. You want a sanctuary.
Exactly. I want a place where I can sit and feel like a functioning member of society. But on the other side, you have the insurgency. You have the children. And the insurgency does not care about your mid-century modern vibe. They see the furniture, and they don't see seating. They see infrastructure.
Ah, yes. The sofa is a launch pad. The rug is lava.
And the ottoman is a landing strip. And this is the universal tension of modern parenting, isn't it? I mean, how do you maintain a home that looks like adults live there while raising these high-energy chaos machines?
It is the defining struggle of domestic life, the friction between style and, well, survival.
And that is exactly where we are starting today. We are diving into a story that is going to resonate with literally anyone who has ever yelled, "Please get off the couch." We're looking at a company called Spring and Stitch, and specifically their flagship invention, the Bounder.
But having gone through the source material, their origin story, the product philosophy, the whole about us narrative, this doesn't feel like a standard product review. It's not just about a piece of furniture.
No, it feels like a case study in psychological warfare, or maybe conflict resolution.
I would call it a fascinating case study in design thinking applying to domestic chaos. It's about what happens when an interior designer stops trying to fight the energy in her house and decides to, engineer a solution that actually looks good.
And the solution involves a garage full of junk, a very frustrated mother, and this is my absolute favorite part, an 89-year-old grandmother named Mima.
The Mima factor is the secret sauce here. It shifts this from just a manufacturing story to something deeply personal.
We are definitely going to get to Mima because she is the hero we all need. But first, we have to set the scene properly. We have to unpack the problem space.
Right. So to understand why this product even exists, you have to look at the founder, Chandler Quintrell. In the source material, she describes a scenario that I think will trigger a little PTSD in a lot of parents listening.
She has 2 daughters, and she describes them in a way that I think is so sweet but also exhausting. She says, "It started the way most things start in our house, with 2 little girls bouncing off the furniture, literally."
And she makes a really important distinction here. She notes that she loves their energy. She isn't trying to suppress the play. She doesn't want them to, sit still and read the encyclopedia all day.
Right, she wants them to be active. But, and here is the friction point, her furniture, in her words, had opinions.
I love that line. My furniture had opinions.
It's such a polite way of saying her sofa was screaming for mercy. Furniture usually has the opinion of, "Please stop breaking my springs."
So what do?
They do what every parent does. They try to divert the energy. They enter what she calls the trampoline cycle.
The classic defensive maneuver. Buy the specific tool for the job to save the sofa. But this is where the story gets really interesting because the sources break down the math of this cycle, and it's honestly startling.
I read this 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Chandler notes that over a period of just 2 years, their family went through 4 mini trampolines.
4. In 24 months. That's a new trampoline every 6 months, on average.
That is wild. 2 were bought and 2 were gifted. She adds a little note there that says, "If you have kids, you know." Which I assume means grandparents love gifting things that are loud and exhaust the children.
It's a strategic gift, for sure. But here's the key insight from the text. Why do they go through 4? When I first read that, I assumed breakage. That the kids were just bouncing them into oblivion.
Right. You buy those cheap ones online, the elastin snaps, the legs get wobbly, the safety net turns into a trap.
That happens. But Chandler points out something more subtle. They didn't necessarily fail mechanically, at least not at first. They failed the living room test.
Okay, let's unpack that, because this is the exile she talks about.
Exactly. She describes why these 4 trampolines were, to use her word, banished. She says they ended up in the garage or leaning against the house in the backyard.
The furniture graveyard. The place where good intentions go to die.
And the reasons were purely aesthetic. She lists the pain points. Ugly, cheap, plastic coverings that would crack.
Oh, I know that look. That crinkly bright blue or screaming red plastic that splits after a month, and then you have that exposed yellow foam underneath.
Right. And she mentions industrial-looking springs. And the biggest issue, the visual aesthetic just clashed with everything indoors.
This is the crux of it, right?
Yeah.
You want your kids to burn off energy, but you don't want your living room to look like a gymnastics center or a carnival.
That is the conflict. It creates what we might call visual friction. The object works functionally. It bounces, but it creates stress just by being there. And because it looked like an industrial toy, it got kicked out of the house.
And once a trampoline goes to the garage, it's over.
It is effectively dead.
No kid is going to go out to the cold garage to bounce by themselves while the family is inside watching a movie. They want to be where the action is.
Precisely. The host organism, the family, is in the living room. So if the trampoline is in the garage, the kids come back to the living room. And what do they find?
The nice, bouncy sofa.
And the cycle restarts. You buy another trampoline, thinking maybe this time it'll stay. But it never does, because it's still ugly.
And Chandler, being an interior designer, finally hits a breaking point. She's standing in her garage, looking at the latest Exile trampoline number 4, and then she looks at her daughters inside, just destroying the sofa again.
This is the aha moment. She realizes she's fighting a losing battle because she's trying to force a separation that just doesn't work.
She writes down a design principle here that I think belongs on a bumper sticker. She says, if something doesn't look like it belongs, it doesn't stay.
It's a profound observation for home design. Belonging isn't just about utility. It isn't just, does it fit in the corner? It's about aesthetic coherence. If it creates visual noise, if it irritates you every time you walk past it, you will eventually find a reason to get rid of it.
We tolerate ugly things for a week, maybe a month, but eventually the adult state reasserts control and banishes the ugly thing.
Correct. So Chandler shifts her mindset. She stops looking for a trampoline she can tolerate, and she starts sketching with a very specific goal.
She asks, what if a trampoline looked like a piece of furniture you actually chose?
Not just put up with, chose. She lists the criteria. Beautiful fabric, clean lines. She wanted a design that, in her words, earned its spot in your living room.
I love that phrasing, earned its spot. Like the furniture has to audition. It has to bring something to the table besides just function.
But here's the hurdle. Having an idea is one thing. I can sit here and say, I want a toaster that matches my curtains perfectly. But I don't know how to build a toaster.
And Chandler is an interior designer. She knows fabrics, she knows color palettes, she knows spatial flow. She does not know how to weld springs or sew upholstery that can withstand a jumping child.
She had the vision, but she lacked the execution. She needed a production partner.
She needed the heavy artillery. She needed Meemaw.
I love that the source material literally has a section called The Call.
It sounds like she's calling in a cleaner for a mob hit. Get me Meemaw.
In a way, she was calling in a specialist. Chandler knew exactly who to call. Her grandmother, Meemaw, who was 89 years old.
89. And described as a woman who can sew anything.
You know, every family seems to have that one person from that generation who looks at a torn pair of jeans or a complicated curtain and just fixes it. They understand construction in a way that most of us today just don't.
We buy things, they build things.
Exactly. So Chandler brings her idea, her sketches, and a stack of fabric swatches to Meemaw. And this is where the magic happens. It isn't a tech startup story where they fly to Shenzhen to find a factory.
No, it's a granddaughter and a grandmother in a room.
Chandler brought the modern design eye, the need for neutrals, textures, clean lines. Meemaw brought what the text calls decades of craftsmanship.
And together, they built the very first bounder by hand.
That is a critical detail.
Yeah.
This wasn't a 3D printed prototype. This was sewing. This was upholstery. They physically constructed the solution.
He's disrupting the industry with a sewing machine. I love it. But let's not forget the third part of the collaboration team, the quality testers.
The daughters.
They had the tough job. They just had to jump on things until something broke or worked.
But their role was vital. If Meemaw made it look beautiful, but it didn't bounce well, or if it felt stiff or unsafe, it wouldn't matter. It would just be a pretty ottoman that nobody used.
So let's talk about what they actually built. We keep saying the bounder, but for the listener trying to visualize this, what are we looking at?
Based on the product description and the problem it solves, the bounder is a hybrid. At its core, yes, it's a fully functional trampoline. It has the springs, it has the bounce surface. It's designed to take the impact.
But if I walked into your house, I wouldn't know that.
No. And that's the genius of it. It features an ottoman topper. This is the key innovation. It's a detachable cushion top.
So when the kids are at school or asleep or you have guests over for wine and cheese,
You put the topper on, and suddenly it serves as a landing cushion, a footstool, or just a beautiful fabric ottoman.
it replaces the need to steal cushions from the couch to make a landing pad.
Exactly. It's a transformer. It changes based on the needs of the room at that moment.
The source material highlights this transformation in the home. It says, the moment we put it in the living room, everything changed.
That sounds dramatic, but I believe it. Think about the energy in the room. Before, it was, don't jump on that, get down, go outside. Now, the yes space is right there in the center of the room.
The metrics speak for themselves here. The girls bounced on it every single day. But what was the most important result for Chandler?
They stopped bouncing on the sofas.
That is the victory. That is the mission accomplished banner.
And note why they stopped. It wasn't because they were forced to. It was because the bounder was better at being a trampoline than the sofa was. And because it was allowed to stay in the living room, they didn't have to choose between being near mom and having fun.
And there's a stealth aspect to this that the founder emphasizes. She mentions that guests would come over and compliment the piece.
Oh, what a lovely ottoman, Chandler. Is that linen?
Exactly. They had no idea it was a piece of play equipment. It was hiding in plain sight.
Chandler notes that for the first time, a trampoline didn't end up in the garage. It became the most used piece of furniture in our home.
That shift from exile to most used is purely down to design. It's solved the friction between the parent's need for order and the child's need for movement.
It creates a home where you don't have to choose. And that's actually their slogan, isn't it?
Yes. Refined and rowdy, living beautifully under one roof.
Refined and rowdy. That captures the modern parenting condition perfectly.
It really does. It rejects the binary. It rejects the idea that once you have kids, your house has to look like a daycare center until they turn 18.
Or that if you want a nice house, your kids can't touch anything.
Exactly. Now, I want to circle back to the quality for a second, because in the About Us, they use a phrase that stopped me in my tracks. They describe the bounder as heirloom quality.
Yeah, that is a bold claim for a trampoline.
Right. An heirloom is a grandfather clock, or a mahogany desk, or maybe Mayma's sewing machine. You don't usually leave a trampoline to your grandchildren in your will.
To my grandson, I leave the bouncy thing.
Right. But think about why trampolines are usually disposable. It's because they're made of cheap materials that degrade. They're meant to be used for a summer and thrown away. The bounder is indoor only. It's made with furniture-grade fabrics.
And it's handcrafted in Georgia.
Right. It's built like a sofa, not like a toy. So the idea is, once your kids outgrow the bouncing phase, you just keep the topper on.
It just graduates. It becomes a permanent ottoman.
Exactly. It doesn't go to the landfill. It adapts. That is true life cycle design.
So, frankly, considering the probable price point, which we can assume is higher than the plastic ones, it needs to last. It's an investment piece.
It positions them in the luxury market, certainly.
So can I buy one? If I'm listening to this and looking at my Rowan sofa cushions, can I get a bounder right now?
You can, but you need a little patience. The site states they are currently accepting pre-orders.
The classic small batch waitlist.
It says 4 to 6 week delivery, which makes sense. I mean, if they're truly hand sewing these in Georgia, they can't just spin up a factory line overnight. It takes time to make something heirloom quality.
It adds to the allure, doesn't it?
Oh.
It's not Amazon Prime. It's slow furniture.
And they note that the patent is pending, so they're clearly protecting this specific combination of form and function.
Now, there was one detail in the commercial section that made me laugh out loud. Did you see the special offer?
I did. Free hat with purchase for a limited time.
A hat. I love that. You buy a high-end designer ottoman trampoline, and you get a hat.
It's quirky. It speaks to that small business, family-run vibe. A big corporation would give you a discount code or an extended warranty. Spring and Stitch says, here, have a hat.
It feels very Meemaw somehow. Take a hat, honey. It's cold outside.
It does. It adds personality. It makes you feel like you're joining a club.
And I noticed on the navigation menu, there's a teaser for something else.
Yes. Looking at the site structure, there's an item listed as the Sun Deck coming soon.
The Sun Deck. And guesses. Actually, wait. The sources give us absolutely zero detail on this. We are flying blind.
We are. But given the name Spring and Stitch and the nature of the bounder, one assumes it continues this theme. Sun Deck implies lounging. Or maybe outdoors.
Maybe an outdoor version of the bounder. Or, hear me out, what if they're tackling other ugly things?
Like what?
A playpen. A changing table. If they apply the bounder treatment to a playpen, something that looks like a chic daybed but functions as a kid jail, That would be huge.
Kid jail, but make it chic. That is a billion-dollar idea.
But whatever it is, it shows they're thinking beyond just the one product. They're building a brand philosophy around this idea of hidden utility.
And that leads nicely to the big takeaway here.
Yeah, as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
What's the core lesson for you? When you step back from the fabric swatches and the springs, what is this story really about?
For me, it connects back to that idea of the exile. We often accept a false dichotomy in our homes. We accept that functional things for kids have to be ugly, and therefore they have to be hidden or banished to the garage.
We segregate our lives.
Yeah.
Fun stuff in the playroom, pretty stuff in the parlor, and never the twain shall meet.
Spring and Stitch proves that separation is artificial. If you apply design thinking and craftsmanship, if you take the time to really solve the aesthetic problem, you can integrate the chaos into the calm. You can hide the utility in plain sight.
It changes the way the family interacts with the room. Instead of yelling, "Get down," you can just let them be.
Exactly. It removes the friction. It allows the home to serve everyone.
I think that's powerful. It's not just about furniture, it's about domestic peace.
Domestic peace through better upholstery.
I love it. And it leaves me with a question for you, listening right now. We talked about the stealth aspect of the Bounder. It's a trampoline successfully disguised as high-end furniture.
Hidden utility.
Exactly. So what else? Look around your house right now. What other ugly household necessities are you tolerating? What is sitting in your garage or your basement because it works, but you hate looking at it?
That is an interesting thought. High chairs.
High chairs are a big one. They're usually plastic monstrosities. What if a high chair looked like a sculpture?
Or dog crates.
Yes. Why does a dog crate have to look like a cage? Could it be a side table? Could it be a credenza?
Some of that exists, but I think we're just scratching the surface of stealth parenting gear.
I think you're right. The future might be a home that looks like a museum but functions like a gymnasium.
A secret gymnasium.
And I, for one, am ready for it, as long as it doesn't end up in the garage.
Amen to that. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Spring and Stitch. Go check them out, maybe get yourself a free hat, and keep fighting the good fight for your living room. We will see you next time.